It's 9:30 and I'm calling the meeting to order. First item of business is adoption of the agenda. Do I have a mover? Councillor Finch.
Moved by Councillor Finch, seconded by Councillor Mitchell, that the agenda be adopted and printed as circulated.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Having adopted the agenda, are there any declarations of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof? Not seeing any. Minutes and business arising. Do I have a mover? Councillor Finch.
Moved by Councillor Finch, seconded by Councillor Mitchell, that the minutes from the July 16th, 2025 council meeting be adopted and printed as circulated.
Is there any discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And nobody submitted for the public comment period, so we'll go straight on to public meetings and drainage meetings. Can I have a motion? Councillor Finch.
Moved by Councillor Finch, seconded by Councillor Mitchell, that the council meeting be adjourned at 9:31 a.m. for the purpose of holding a public meeting pursuant to the provisions of the Planning Act.
And I will turn it over to Planner McDonald for minor variance application A15-25.
Thank you, Mayor Ryan. Good morning to council, staff, and members of the public joining us here this morning. The first application for minor variance affects farm property on the east side of 37th line in the community of Brooksdale. In this instance, the applicant is requesting one area of relief as it relates to the provisions surrounding additional residential units. As shown on the screen before committee, the approximate location for the proposed new dwelling, the ARU, is in behind an existing coverall structure. There is an existing single detached dwelling on the property. The details and size, etc., of that dwelling, which are relevant to this application, are contained in the report for committee's consideration. But the main area of relief that they're requesting is the distance between the primary dwelling and the proposed ARU. Currently, the zoning bylaw caps that measurement at 30 meters, just under 100 feet, whereas the applicant, based on the preferred location, would be closer to 70 meters between the primary dwelling and the ARU. So staff have assessed this through a number of different ways, and we've looked primarily at the fact that there is an existing laneway that can service the proposed ARU. The distance, although it does push them into an area which could be cropped, if you were to take, for example, the coverall building and place it where the additional residential unit is proposed, the impact on the agricultural lands would be negligible. Staff are supportive of the application today. I would just note that we didn't receive any comments from members of the public or surrounding community members expressing any concern. We do feel it maintains the general intent and purpose of the official plan, the zoning bylaw. It's minor in nature, and it is a form of desirable development. I'm happy to take any questions, and I'm happy to say that Paul and his son Alex are both here in attendance today.
Any questions from Committee of Adjustment for the planner on the report? Councillor Mitchell.
Two questions, Spencer. First one is, how much agricultural land will be taken out of production?
Through the chair to committee member Mitchell's question, the overall footprint, while they haven't selected a design necessarily for the ARU, we can anticipate it would be less than half an acre that could be taken out, all told, with proposed septic system, the extension of the laneway that would be required, and any servicing. But again, that the land that they are proposing to put this is an appropriate area, we feel. The property is also constrained by way of a slope that goes down to an existing pond that's on the site, and exploring options to push it to the north would have the same impact on the agricultural lands, but about half an acre in total.
My other question is the barn currently used to house animals?
No, it is not.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the committee for the planner? Not seeing any. Is the applicant here, and do they wish to speak to their application? Okay, all right. Are there any members of the public, either here or virtually, who wish to speak to the application? Not seeing any. Okay, so what we will do then, just so everybody understands, actually, committee can decide on this now. Yeah, all right. Do I have a mover? Councillor Finch.
Moved by Councillor Finch, seconded by Councillor Mitchell, that the Township of Zorra Committee of Adjustment approve application file A15-25Z submitted by Paul Matheson for lands described as Part Lot 26-27, Concession 5, municipally known as 376580, 37th line, Township of Zorra, as it relates to relief from Section 5.4.2.4, Table 5.4.2.4, provisions for detached additional residential unit, and to increase the maximum permitted distance from the principal dwelling from 30 meters to 70 meters, to facilitate the construction of a detached additional residential unit on the property zone general agricultural in the Township of Zorra.
Is there any discussion? Councillor Mitchell.
Yeah, this wasn't a slam dunk for me because I'm always a little nervous about taking agricultural land out of production, but the rules for rural ARU state that shall minimize the loss of tillable agricultural land. It doesn't say that it will eliminate the loss of agricultural land, and I think at less than half an acre, this is a minimal loss. And when you look at the overhead picture, there are a few other options as indicated by the planner to locate it on this footprint. The coverall building actually will act as a bit of a privacy screen between the main house and the ARU, which is one of the things that we look at for ARU applications. And the fact that the barn is not currently being used to house animals, it's kind of hard to tell what the condition of the barn is just from the picture, but barns that are not used tend to be either torn down or fall down. So long term, there's potential that by locating the ARU where it's proposed, there would be an increase of tillable land once that barn is removed from the footprint. So for those reasons, I'm going to support the application.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. So you're approved. I would just suggest you follow up with Chief Building Official Mike Hughes before you proceed further, and you're good to go. Thank you. Planner McDonald, minor variance application A16-25.
Thank you. The next application for a minor variance before the committee affects a property on the west side of 47th line. In this instance, it's an approximate 50-hectare parcel containing an existing single-attached dwelling and a number of other buildings. The applicants have applied for a detached additional residential unit. However, in this case, they do require two separate areas of relief from the township zoning bylaw, one being the area pertaining to detached accessory residential, additional residential units, and the second, and in this instance, perhaps the more important of the two, being the relief requested for the minimum distance separation MDS 1 requirements. As outlined in the report, the ARU itself does actually comply with all of the provisions. It's just that we expressly require ARUs to be permitted as a use when they're detached on an A1 or an A2 lot. Just allows us an opportunity to ensure location, size, driveway access, everything else is compliant. But the use itself, we are seeking to recognize as being permitted in this case. The area shown just to the north there that contains the existing hog operation and associated manure storage facility is an area of concern in the sense that the MDS buffer around that facility is quite large, given that it's capable of housing a significant number of hogs, which generate the biggest buffer of all types of livestock. In this case, staff are satisfied with the application. The relief, although numerically would appear significant, we are satisfied that it's appropriate in this case for a number of reasons. The primary reason being that the existing house to the south on the subject property, it's currently in place. So any future expansions or growth of that livestock operation are already hindered by the existence of that dwelling that's there now. The applicants are able to ensure that that MDS distance is no further reduced. So they're able to place the proposed ARU in a location. There is a condition for the committee's consideration here, just to ensure that that setback doesn't get further reduced and they keep the proposed ARU the same distance, equidistant, I would say, from the livestock facility to the north. As an aside, the applicants do also own and operate that livestock facility to the north. However, as the committee is well aware, you still require that relief regardless of ownership. I just mentioned that as an aside. As a result of circulation, we did not receive any comments from community groups or any area residents indicating any objection or concern with the proposal. And as noted, we are supportive of it here today. I'm happy to take any questions, and the applicants are available to do the same. Thank you.
Any questions from the committee for the planner on the report? Councillor Mitchell.
3 questions this time, Spencer. First one, do MDS restrictions apply to primary dwellings on livestock farms?
Through the chair to committee members Mitchell's question, MDS does not apply on your, let's say, on your same farm. So wherever your livestock barn is on your home farm, we'll call it, the house does not have an MDS impact, and vice versa. It's just when they're separate parcels. So in this case, they're separate parcels, so MDS does apply. But if the barn that's to the north was on the subject lands instead, we would not have the MDS issue that we have.
Okay, so you basically answered all 3 of my questions. With that one was that if this was all one property, there would be no requirement for an MDS or for a minor variance related to the MDS. It's only because even though they're owned and operated by the same people, they are considered separate properties, and that's why the MDS comes into play here.
That's correct. Maintaining that separate ownership allows the current owners that if they wanted to dispose of one of those properties tomorrow, they could do so. Then the impact would exist as it is.
Yeah, there's very good reasons not to combine them for, as you said, sale at some future point as a separate property, whereas if it's all one, you're restricted on that. So, okay, that's good. One question, I got 3 answers, so very efficient.
Any other questions? Not seeing any. Is the applicant here, and do they wish to speak to their application? Are there any members of the public, either here in person or virtually, who wish to speak to the application? Not seeing any. Do I have a mover? Councillor Finch.
Moved by Councillor Finch, seconded by Councillor Mitchell, that the Township of Zorra Committee of Adjustment approve application file A16-25Z submitted by Beckwood Farms Limited, Maria Peters, for lands described as part lot 31-32, concession 8, West Zorra, municipally known as 476917, 47th line, Township of Zorra, as it relates to relief from section 7.2.6, location of new accessory dwelling, additional residential unit and garden suite, to 1, reduce the required minimum distance separation, formally 1, requirement from the existing livestock barn at 476953, 47th line, from 565 meters to 207 meters, and 2, reduce the required minimum distance separation, Formula 1, requirement from the existing manure storage facility at 476953, 47th line, from 609 meters to 227 meters. 2, relief from section 7.1, accessory uses, building and structure permitted, to permit the detached additional residential unit on the property zone, general agriculture zone in the Township of Zorra, subject to the following conditions: that the proposed ARU be situated such that it is no closer to the existing livestock operation to the immediate north than the existing single detached dwelling, and the confirmation of such is provided to the satisfaction of the Township Building Department.
Is there any discussion? Councillor Mitchell.
Yeah, my rationale on this one is that MDS restrictions are in place to reduce conflict between livestock farmers and rural neighbors. As was just confirmed, MDS restrictions don't apply to dwellings on the same property. And in this situation, in reality, this is all one property, even though legally there are 2 different properties. ARUs that are built in A1 and A2 zoned areas are generally built to house family or employees, so they're part of the farm operation. And a big point for me was that ARUs can't be severed from the lot containing the primary dwelling, so long-term impact is that the ARU would not become a separate property where somebody could move in and who does have a problem with being so close to a livestock operation. So for all those reasons, I'm going to support the application.
Is there any other discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. So again, just touch base with Chief Building Official Mike Hughes before you proceed, and you should be good to go. Thank you. So now the committee adjustment will sit as council and hear 2 zone change applications still in public meeting, and I'll turn it back over to the planner for zone change application ZN5-25-06.
Thank you, Mayor Ryan. The application for zone change before council at this time affects lands located on the east side of 43rd line, just north of the village of Beachville. In this case, the surrounding area contains a number of existing agribusiness lots, the ones to the north most recently being redeveloped within the last couple of years. There's an existing building there immediately north of the subject lands, as outlined in yellow on the screen. And in this case, the application coming before council is we call it preemptive because in this case, they are also applying for an application for consent. Council is aware that oftentimes they see the rezoning come after the consent has happened. However, in this case, it's more logical to do the rezoning ahead of the consent for a few reasons. The subject lands are outlined on the screen, and what they're proposing to do is create the long kind of linear strip as a separate lot eventually through this consent application. In order to do so, they need to amend the existing agribusiness special, the AB2 zone provisions, for 2 reasons. One, the lot area is specified. So the lot area as it exists today is what was determined at the time as being appropriate for this AB2 property. Similarly, the lot frontage as it exists today was what was felt as being appropriate for the property. So in this case, they're looking to reduce that such that post-severance, what will be the retained lot would comply with the new AB2 provisions. So by allowing a reduced frontage and a reduced lot area with no proposed changes to the existing uses on the retained portion, which is agribusiness in nature, they do have permissions in place to allow for up to 6 transport trucks, specifically for agricultural products and agricultural purposes on the subject lands. As far as access points and as far as comments received from County Public Works, from a road standpoint, there was nothing indicating any concerns with this moving forward to the consent stage. It is anticipated that a future zone change application will come for the severed lot once that process has happened, and that will seek to allow permissions for a similar agribusiness use where they construct agricultural buildings and structures such as coverall buildings and that type of structure. As far as comments reviewed as a result of circulation, we did not receive anything from community members or area residents. We do feel that the proposal is consistent with the zoning bylaw and the official plan. It is compatible with the surrounding area. We've kind of started to establish a bit of an agribusiness hub here, 43rd line and number 2. So exciting opportunity for more efficient use of an existing agribusiness lot, as we're not essentially creating any new agribusiness lots. So this is a good opportunity, and we're happy to support this today.
Any questions from council on the report? Is the applicant here, and do they wish to speak to their application?
I'm here to represent the applicant, but no one will comment.
Okay. Are there any members of the public, either here in person or virtually, who wish to speak to the application? Not seeing any, so we're going to move on, just so you know, to the next zone change. Then we'll come out of the public meeting and council will decide. So then, zone change application ZN5-25-09.
Thank you, Mayor Ryan. The application before council at this time affects lands on Commissioner Street in Embro, east of Huron Street. And in this case, the application is seeking to go from the existing village zone into a site-specific R3 zone. The specific areas of relief being requested pertain to the interior side yard width, and they also pertain to the frontage for 2 of what will become 3 of these lots. So the application is seeking permissions in order to construct a street fronting townhouse on, we consider this infill development on an existing vacant lot on Commissioner Street within the village core of Embro, very close to all the services and amenities that Embro has to offer. I would note that the lot is vacant, and thanks to the building services coordinator at the township, I have been able to confirm that 2011 is when the house that was previously there was removed. So this lot has been vacant for a number of years, and it is an exciting opportunity to see new development come to this particular area of Embro within the village core. The village core, just as a reminder for council, the village core permits both low and medium density housing types. It also permits a wide range of other uses that are compatible with many of the things that you would need in a community such as Embro. We are, as a result of circulation, I will just say that we did receive comments from a couple of different area residents very close by, indicating some concerns with the proposal. Some of those concerns surrounded potential drainage matters. Some of those concerns surrounded the fact that it's perhaps not in keeping with the existing built form on this area of Commissioner Street and the broader Embro area. This is, again, from a planning standpoint, this is almost precisely the type of development we do want to see come forward, and we're very happy to recommend consideration of approval for a number of reasons, but this type of infill where we'd see a street fronting townhouse on a currently vacant lot, which would then be able to be severed into 3 separately conveyable lots for some form, it's anticipated, of attainable type housing at units which are 1,400 square feet in size. This is the type of development that we're pleased to see come forward. So notwithstanding the fact that there was some concerns from area residents, and those are understandable, planning staff do not feel that there's any need to address those concerns beyond recognize that they were brought forward, and area of residents are perhaps not all that excited about the same thing that planning might be excited about. We are happy to recommend approval of the application here today and have brought forward the associated bylaw should council decide to approve it. I'm happy to take any questions, and I believe the applicant is available to do the same.
Questions from council on the report? Councillor Mitchell.
The people that expressed concerns about this, were they concerned specifically about the design of this project, or were they just concerned about infill in general as something they didn't support?
Through the mayor to Councillor Mitchell's question, so one of them was received via phone call and the other was an email. And I believe it was the email, that resident did come and meet with me here at the township office as well, just to discuss the plans. And it really, I got the sense that it was just, they've had a vacant lot near them for a number of years, and that may be viewed as a benefit to have a big open space next to you, and perhaps they're not thrilled with the form of development, the type of development, the fact that it's a more intensive development. We would consider this a gentle intensification, density in an area that does warrant some, but understandably the fact that there would become 3 lots on an area which was previously 1 lot, I think was of concern to the residents.
My other question is, will these be rental properties or sold as freehold properties?
Through the mayor to Councillor Mitchell's question, these will be freehold units. So again, they go through the zone change process, and then once pending approval, once foundations are in for the street fronting townhouse, they would come in with 3 separate consent applications to create 3 separately conveyable lots, which would then be sold for freehold units.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from council on the report? Is the applicant here, and do they wish to speak to their application? Just need you to turn on the microphone and just give your name for the record. Thanks.
Good morning. I'm Mark Burke, Royal LePage in Woodstock, 20 Wellington Street in Woodstock. And here on behalf of Truebuilt Construction, really mostly just to answer any questions that you might have that are more specific about the homes, or a question about rentals would be a good example that economically speaking it wouldn't, these units wouldn't be suitable as rentals, just the math doesn't work for that. Most likely first-time buyers. If the feds follow through on the promise to take HST off of new construction for first-time home buyers. These would be almost certainly bought by young families. They're 3-bedroom units. They're kind of medium in size, somewhere in that 1,500 square foot range, and they're really nice family homes. We pushed it back. The lot's 50 meters, which is a really nice deep lot to work with. So we've set it back to be pretty much in line with the other homes on the street, and that gives 2 parking spaces in front, plus a parking space in the garage. I know people joke that the garage never gets used other than for junk, so very nice to have the 2 spots for each unit in front, and keeps the street parking, has nice off-street parking for that. So really suitable for young families, and we're really excited to do that. Truebuilt Construction has been building in Oxford for 40 years. We've already built 3 in Embro, I think 5 or 6 years ago, and happy to return. And happy to answer any questions.
Questions from council for the applicant? Thank you. Are there any members of the public, either here in person or virtually, who wish to speak to the application? Not seeing any. Can I have a motion to come out of the public meeting?
Moved by Councillor Finch, seconded by Councillor Mitchell, that pursuant to the Planning Act, the public meeting be adjourned at 9:56, and the regular meeting of council be called back to order.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And do I have a mover for zone change application ZN 5-25-06?
Moved by Councillor Finch, seconded by Councillor Mitchell, that the Council of Zorra, the Council of Township of Zorra approve in principle the zoning change application submitted by Randy Barber, whereby AB2 zoning affecting the lands described as Lot 1, 2, 11, 13, Part Lots 3, 10, 14, 15, Plan 96, Part 2 of 41R 12, 38, Part Lot 21, Concession 1, North Oxford, municipally known as 434932, 43rd line, Township of Zorra, be amended to permitted to reduce the lot area and frontage in application of a future consent application.
Is there any discussion? Councillor Mitchell.
Yeah, my support for this application goes a little deeper than just the merits of the application itself. And if you, I think it's important that government at all levels allows private business to pursue new opportunities, because private business makes things, fixes things, provides services, creates jobs, and most importantly maybe is pays taxes. And I don't think government should support by providing subsidies or picking certain technologies or business models over others, because what tends to happen then is government picks winners and losers, and the history is that they pick more losers than winners because the decisions are based on ideology and political considerations. So government should facilitate business startups, expansions, diversifications, and our participation in the ROEDC is a good example of that. And we should minimize delays and costs, and through the planning process is a way that we can do that. Major issue in Canada right now is getting the country going after a lost decade of over-regulation and over-taxation. And we as a council can't get pipelines or other projects of national interest built, but we can approve this project. It was definitely of local interest. And the business person, the people that own this property, feel this is the best economic use of the property. Our planning staff have looked at it and feel it is consistent with the provincial planning statement and county official plan, and I think we should do whatever we can to move this project along.
Is there any other discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. So similarly, if you follow up with Chief Building Official, and he'll make sure your I's are dotted, T's are crossed, and you're good to go. Thank you. And do I have a mover for zone change application ZN 5-25-09? Councillor Mitchell.
Moved by Councillor Mitchell, seconded by Councillor Finch. That the Council of the Township of Zorra approve the zone change application application submitted by True Built Construction Incorporated, whereby lands described as Lot 5, Registered Plan Number 39, Embro, municipally known as 115 Commissioner Street, in the Township of Zorra, are to be rezoned from Village Zone V to Special Residential Type 3 Zone R3 SP to permit a 3-unit street fronting townhouse on the subject lands with a reduced frontage of 5.6 meters, 18.3 feet, for the interior unit, and 7.7 meters, 25.2 feet, for the most easterly unit, and with a reduced minimum interior side yard width of 1.2 meters, 3.9 feet for the end units, to facilitate the construction of a street fronting townhouse.
Is there any discussion? Councillor Mitchell.
Yeah, I support this application as well. You can rewind and repeat the comments I just made about government's role in development, and this time we're talking about housing. New housing, and we've talked about it many times around this horseshoe, is new housing in Zorra is limited. We either need to develop agricultural land surrounding Ember or Thamesford, or we need to promote infill. 3 units at 1,440 square feet are the best return to the builder and provide mid-size housing, and which is very much needed in our community. Not only must there be a need for housing, there has to be an economic reason to build, and the applicant alluded to the economic return on this. It does meet the planning criteria with some minor variances. Those variances are no different than the many that we've approved in other projects. And I can understand why neighbors are not happy about having a vacant lot replaced with a triplex. But I think the benefits of building housing far outweigh the negatives. And I know some people will say, well, that's easy for me to say because I live out in the country and I'm not going to get a triplex built next to my place. But I'll point out that since we bought our house, within a mile how the crow flies, I've had 2 major dairy farms, 2 smaller dairy barns, 3 major hog barns, and a major broiler barn built. So we do have infill in the country. It's just different type of housing that we're looking at. So I can sympathize with the concerns, but I think that based on our priorities as a council on housing, that we should approve this application.
Any other discussion? Deputy Mayor.
I will also be supporting this application. I strongly value that this process allows for the public to provide their comments, and I appreciate that those comments and feedback were received from the public. It gives us a chance to consider some aspects of the application that may have not been on our radar or part of the process and the report. But at the end of the day, I think this is a really strong, good infill project. We, as Councillor Mitchell just mentioned, it's protection of our ag lands when we're able to develop within our village boundaries. It's more efficient use of existing services and infrastructure. When the servicing and infrastructure is already in place, it helps keep the cost of that new development down, where we're not having that, required to be an added cost, which has impact on that sales price for the purchaser. But then also, to me, what's almost more important is the impact for all of us in the long run, for the eventual replacement of sidewalk slabs, the upkeep of the road resurfacing, and then any underground surfacing, that when we are able to provide this type of, when developers are interested in providing appropriate infill, it makes future costs on the tax levy more manageable for us to share with more contributors to that tax base, as opposed to sprawling into farmland and funding all of that infrastructure replacement on the tax base in the future.
Is there any other discussion? Councillor Finch.
I did receive a few of the emails, the same as the planner, and I think the planner did a great job answering those emails for the neighboring residents, and I'm happy to see this coming forward to our village. Like you said, we do have a few others in the village, and I think they get gobbled up pretty quickly. And I am a neighboring resident to this property as well, and I'm happy to see it coming forward.
Is there any other discussion? For the reasons that the other members have said, I very much support this. This is almost exactly every single criteria that council has said that it wants. I'm also reminded a couple of years ago of a time that Councillor Finch and I stood in the small hall in Embro and were told by residents that they didn't want an apartment building and they didn't want it on the outside of the village. They wanted smaller housing built forms like townhomes, and they wanted them closer to the village core, and they wanted them on empty lots that were underdeveloped. There it is. I think we know anecdotally that in the township in general, and especially in the village of Embro, there is a turnover in population now. There are a lot of young families with school-age children there right now. And this is exactly the kind of home that they're looking for, that they can actually afford and live in a beautiful little village. And I think it'd be great if they came and added to the village. So very supportive of this application. Is there anyone else before I call the question? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. So again, follow up with, in your case, Planner McDonald and then CBO Hughes, and you'll be good to go. And next up is delegation, excuse me, delegations. Christine Scrimger, Scrimger and Company CPA, Professional Corporation, 2024 Zorra Financial Statement Presentation. Welcome, and I will turn it over to you. Just make sure the microphone's on.
All right, good morning, everyone. As was mentioned, I'm Christine Scrimger with Scrimger and Company, and these are the draft audited financial statement for the year ended December 31st, 2024. As you remember, under Canadian auditing standards, those charged with governance, which would be this council, must approve the statements before they can be finalized. And then the next step after that is getting the FIR filed with the province as required by the Ministry of Municipal Affairs. And so I'll go through them page by page. If I'm not answering the questions that you might have, please don't hesitate to stop me, and we'll answer those. I want to start off by thanking the treasurer, deputy treasurer, and the rest of the staff for all of their help through this audit process, and the former treasurer as well, as part of this is her year as well. And so I just want to, I know when we're here, they don't get a lot of their work done, so I appreciate all of their assistance in finalizing these. They are dated as of today's date, which hopefully is the date council approves them. All right. Okay, just wanted to make sure. All right, so I'm going to go through them, as I said, page by page. So this is the first page. I'm on my page 3, which is the consolidated statement of financial position. So this is your balance sheet. And as you remember from my presentation last year, you were in the middle of an awful lot of new capital, so one being the Public Works building, one being this beautiful new building as well. And so overall, the net financial assets, so that about 2/3 of the way down the page, last year was 1.4 million deficit. This year it's almost a break even, 176 deficit. So as I mentioned last year, you took out some debt to fund specifically the Public Works building. And as we're moving forward now that that is all in place, we're coming back to the positive, which I commented on last year that this would happen. It has happened, which is great. Some of the numbers within that comes down to that total, just a couple comments on that. So last year, the cash was significantly higher, but accounts payable were quite a bit higher, which just means you had not yet paid off the accounts payable, which most of that large amount last year was the holdbacks and the fund and the construction of the 2 major projects. And so this year that's not the case. Those have all been paid off, and that's why really your bank balance is decreased, but your accounts payable have decreased as well. Also, you can see the net long-term liabilities has decreased, which is really your long-term debt, and that's another indicator I look at. Everything below that net financial asset line are assets that you have to have in place in order to provide the services you do. And you'll see that we are continuing. So the main new asset addition in 2024 was obviously this building. This is when it was finalized, about $7.5 million. And so that came out of capital work in progress at the end of last year and is now in a new capital asset this year. And then we take off amortization, so that's really the net difference there. Very little left in capital work in progress, which is also a thing I'm always looking at to making sure that you don't have infrastructure backlog. Coming down to total accumulated surplus at the end of the year of significantly higher, 63 million this year, 56 million last year, so an increase of about 7 million, and again, that would be this, mainly this building. Any questions on that statement at all? Okay. So then we get to the statement of operations and accumulated surplus, 3 columns, one being the budget that council approves for 2024, the actual for 2024, and then the actual for 2023. So I'm really just going to highlight some of the major differences. If there's anything I'm not covering, please don't hesitate to ask me. So overall in revenues, a couple things increased. One is property taxation is about $200,000 there. User charges, so those are just building permits, things like that, that if you remember back when you're preparing the 2024 budget, building was kind of at a standstill, so you weren't quite sure what, so we budgeted conservatively. Thankfully, more development happened, and so that's one of the main reasons for the increase there. And then investment income, again, just rates have continued to evolve from what 2023 were, if you remember that. And then other revenue, there was a couple things that happened. One was one of the, WSIB gave back monies in 2024 to all the municipalities for surpluses they had, which was nice, which has been moved over to reserves. As well, one of our accounts payable was forgiven, and so that was, we got to recognize that revenue. So overall, revenue increase of about $1.2 million, made up of those different items I just mentioned. Under expenditures, we don't budget for amortization, so that's the using up of your capital assets, and that's $2.3 million. So if you add to the expenditures budgeted, $11.1 million, and you add in that $2 million, you get almost exactly what was spent. So we're really close to what budgeted and actual were. And so that's another indicator I'm looking at, making sure that you come down to that excess of revenue over expenditures at a positive balance. So that's meaning that your operating revenues are covering your operating costs as well as the amortization, which is that using up of the assets. And you significantly increase that from last year of about $1 million, which is almost exactly the same what we saw on the balance sheet of that increase there, moving in the right direction. Everything below that line relates to capital or the investment in earth. And so I just comment on a couple of those items that are very high. One is the gain, loss, and disposal of capital assets, and that's really the gain on the sale of the former admin building is the majority of that. And then developer and other contributions. So we did assume one subdivision this year, and so what happens is the developer provides us with costs of the roads that we've assumed, and so then they become our roads. And then as well, we were fortunate enough to receive a donation of some land this year. So those two items are what's in developer and other contributions related to capital and the increase over the budget. Any questions on that statement at all?
Yeah, when I looked at that, I always get excited when there's a big difference between budgeting and the actuals, because I think we do a great job of budgeting, but you did a really good job of explaining why the differences were there. There was one, though, significant difference under transportation services of we were up by $1.3 million. And I don't know if ask you or ask Steve, was we had to replace a bridge that we weren't planning on? Was that the bulk of the difference?
So that's not in, this is operating costs, so that would have been in capital, right?
That would have been capital.
So the increase is because of that $2.3 million of amortization, about 1.3 is roads, as you can imagine. Like most of your, so that's all the using up of the roads, the new public works building, and so those are the items there.
Okay.
I did check into that one, so.
Okay, thank you.
I saved you, Steve. Sorry. All right. I'll move on if there's nothing else on that statement. All right. So the next statement is the statement of cash flow. So this is the increases and decreases of the non-cash items on the balance sheet. There's where you see the second number down is that $2.3 million. And that increase from last year of amortization, a lot of that is this building and the public works building. So those two buildings now are fully being amortized over the life of their expectancy. And so I've highlighted the rest of these major items, I think, on the balance sheet or on this statement, so I won't spend much time here. And again, if you look under financing, I think this is important for council. If you look under financing activities, The previous year, you took out new debt, obviously, you replaced the temporary financing with the county, and now we're starting to pay that debt off, so we're seeing that increase in your cash position over time, which is what we would anticipate it when we talked last year. So just want to confirm that that's happened. And then the next statement is just the increases and decreases in the capital assets, and you can see we've had a significant amount of new capital over the last 2 years. 2023 was 14 million. This year it's 12 million. So definitely been a very busy couple of years, or actually probably 5 years with the Maple Leaf acquisition. We then get to the notes to the financial statements. I won't go through each one of these. They're consistent with what you saw last year. I just want to highlight one note really for you. One is that there's no new debt. Note number 8 is really the breakdown of the surplus. So there's quite a few components here, but one of the things I wanted to draw to council's attention is that total reserves. So last year at the end of 2023, it was 8.3 million. We've increased it a little bit to 8.5 million. And that's includes about $80,000 surplus, operating surplus this year. But again, you've done all of that capital reinvestment, but you've maintained those reserves, so you're starting to build them up, and that's great. You're taking and you're paying off your debt. So both of those items I just wanted to bring to council's attention. And then note number 9 is just the investment in Earth Corp from the old days when we had a hydro corporation. That's our investment with them that they pay out dividends on, and we do receive interest on the accounts receivable or note receivable that we have with them. 2 schedules at the back of the financial statements. One is your breakdown of your capital assets by components, and again, as you can imagine, the building, which I mentioned, was about 7.5 million, and then the infrastructure would be roads. And then the Public Works building was an addition in 2023, so that's why it's not showing there. And then the last schedule is a segmented schedule of revenues and expenditures, which coincides with the functions as described in the FIR. So this is your segue between your audited financial statements and the FIR that gets filed with the province. In your packages as well as the trust fund financial statements. So you do have one trust fund, which is the North Embro Cemetery. So there's a care and maintenance component to that, which is the monies that we receive that have to go in perpetuity in order to pay for the care and maintenance of that cemetery. And so that's also included in these financials, or in the documents you received from me. I'm happy to entertain any questions. I know there's a lot of numbers I just thrown around.
Thank you. Questions from council? Not seeing any.
Don't make it too easy. There's a lot of work that goes into these.
Is there a motion? Councillor Mitchell?
Moved by Councillor Mitchell, seconded by Councillor Finch, that council approve the draft 2024 audited financial statements as presented by the Township Auditor, Christine Scrimgeour and Company, CPA, Professional Corporation.
Is there any discussion? As I do every year, I want to take this opportunity to highlight to council and to anybody watching the video that this is an annual third-party independent financial audit of our finances. So again, whether residents agree or disagree with the decisions that council has made that add up to this budget, they can literally see where every penny goes, that it went where it was supposed to go. I also want to highlight, though, for this council, and again for any residents watching, that having built 2 big expensive buildings, that our reserve balance went up, and that for 2025 we had, it was a 5.39%, I think, levy increase, but by the time you take off growth of about 2%, 2-point-something%, and the OPP costs of 2%, we were at a functional tax increase that most people felt of 1-point-something, which was less than the rate of inflation. With increased reserves, having retired old assets, replaced them with new assets. I think this audited financial statement makes clear that that's sound financial management while also increasing the service level that's available to residents for them to experience. So I think everybody in this council should be quite proud of what's been achieved. I know in the moment at times some of those decisions can be quite fraught, and is it the right thing to do? I think when you are through those budget cycles and see the tax increase, and when you go through this financial audit and see where your reserves and everything is at, is when you see that it did all add up to doing the right things for all the right reasons. And most importantly, I think for future councils to look at those old assets are gone and they don't have to worry about replacing them, and they have a healthier reserve going forward. This is how you really set up future councils and future residents to have really, really manageable property tax increases to either maintain the services they have or give future councils flexibility to do other things. So I think this, I want to thank you for the audited statement, but I think if people really grasp what this means, it's a very, very good news story for everybody in the township. Is there any other discussion before I call the question? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's nice to see you.
And Section 8, reports from Public Services Department, 8.1 Roads Division, Report 2025-071 from the Director of Public Services, Director Oliver. Is there anything you want to highlight for Council?
Thank you, Mayor Ryan. Just a couple quick updates. Paving is on schedule. The Road 74 has had both lifts of asphalt applied. They're now working on Cobble Hills and should be completing it today. They'll let that sit for a couple weeks and they'll start shouldering operations. And then shortly after that, be line painting and hopefully reopen to the public travel. That's all I have. I'm open for questions.
Questions from Council? Councilor Mitchell.
Steve, now that you only report quarterly instead of monthly, I'm obligated to triple the number of questions I have for you because there's so much more going on in your report. First question, was this the first year that summer students were hired for the roads department?
Yes. Well, in my career here, 28 years, it's the first time we've had summer students. So, and it's been greatly helpful. It's helped out with the full-time staff and their vacation times. It's filled in the gaps, and our department, and the roads department and the rec department, have been sharing back and forth with the summer students. It's been working great.
And potential full-time employees at some time down the road, maybe?
Potentially, yes.
Okay, that's good. Second question, and I think I've asked you this question in other years, but I can't remember the answer, so I'm going to ask again. Is the 5,000 meters the actual length of the cracks sealed or the distance of road treated?
So it's the actual length of the crack sealed. So they measure each one until they come up to the 5,000. And sometimes that'll carry 3 or 4 kilometers of road, depending on the condition of the road. Sometimes only 1.5, depending on the condition of the road.
Okay. So is the 5,000 meters just a set amount, or is that sufficient to deal with our issues, or do we need to increase that?
It's traditionally it's been a set amount. We've been budgeting for every year as an operational number. It's right now sufficient. I feel like probably down the road it will even go further as our rehab projects increase and our pavement infrastructure gets renewed, and then we stay on top of things through the proper cycles, and we'll be able to cover more kilometers with that 5,000 meters.
Okay, so our money will go further because we've got better roads, because we're getting caught up on the
100%.
overall. Okay, that's good. Number 4, I noted the spring inspection of sidewalks, and I know that's something that Deputy Mayor had advocated for. Does that replace the fall inspections, or are we now doing inspections twice a year on sidewalks?
No, we still do the fall inspection. The fall inspection, it will focus on obvious any damages that were created through the summer, any trip hazards, also any hazards for the snow plowing operations. If you get a lip or anything that the snow plow catches, it's not always a nice thing. It can cause damage or injury. Also, when we're doing the fall inspections, we look for any overhead trees that maybe make contact with the snow plowing unit. So a few little different things we look for spring and fall, but both necessary and helpful to be done.
So we've increased the level of service on sidewalk maintenance.
That's correct.
I noticed that some of the road work was done, that our own staff has replaced culverts, but the culvert replacement project on the Perth-Oxford Road was contracted out. Was that because of the size of the culverts involved, or because it's a joint project with the Township of Perth South?
There was a few variables that was the base of the decision to go with an outside contractor. Perth South staff and ourselves looked at some of the variables, just the sheer size of the culverts and the scope of the work that was required, dealing with the in-water work that, and the regulations that surround that is quite sensitive. And just the knowing the area was very swampy area to work in. So we thought it best to hire contractors that are, have experience with this type of work, have the right equipment for this type of work, and can do it much more efficiently than what our own staff could do it in.
Part of being efficient is knowing what you can do and what you should let somebody else do.
Yes,
And
and for a little update on...
This is a good example of that.
Exactly. And for a little update, the unknowns, right? When they dug out those two large, they're 3-meter diameter each, so they're quite large. When they dug them out, they found the old embankment walls from the existing original cement structure that was there. So, and old practices were dig a trench and pour it full of cement. So it was quite a task to get that removed, to get it out of the way. So we're happy we had the proper people there with the proper equipment to deal with those type of things that do arise.
Okay, and you noted that there was some issues around applying dust suppressant this year, and I've had some complaints about dusty roads. So if you can remind us, what are the perfect conditions for applying dust suppressant, and how long should the suppressant be effective if it's applied under those conditions?
All right. The damp conditions for when we're pre-grading for the and for when we're applying the dust suppressant is better. Too dry, it evaporates very quickly. And also the weather conditions right after it's applied. If we get heavy rains right afterwards, it leaches it out immediately, and then we don't get the lasting power of the dust suppressant. Typically, if it's applied in good conditions, we'll get 3 or 4 months out of it easily. This year, because of the sheer number of roads that we do, we have to work through all types of weather. Some roads took very well. Other roads were either a rain event immediately after or very dry conditions prepping it. It just didn't get it doesn't last as long. It just does not, the optimal conditions weren't there, so.
And I suspect that because it's applied by an outside contractor, that you're a bit more limited of, like, if it's not a perfect condition, you just can't say, well, we're not going to do it today. Yeah, when it's coming, and you...
That's correct. There's 4 truckloads a day that are scheduled.
Yeah.
And throughout the whole 2 months that we're doing it. And once those trucks are loaded and on their way, like, we're committed to taking them. So we can delay it for a while to try to, you know what I mean? If it's a very wet conditions, we can delay them for a few hours. But, I mean, they have to offload those loads and go back for the next one. So
Sometimes those trucks are there in the evening and they sleep overnight so that they're on site early.
That's
So
correct.
Those
Yes.
guys would not take kindly if you said, we're not going to do it today.
As time is money.
Yeah, exactly. And my last question is, when's the line paving scheduled for the paved roads?
So usually, Oxford County does that service for us through our service share agreement. Usually it can fall anywhere from mid-July to into August. This year we requested it push back a little bit so they could, this year's part of our line painting was Cobble Hills Road and 74. Because we had a section of Cobble Hills and 74 paved, we asked if they could push it back so when they're line painting parts of Cobble Hills Road, they can do it all. That way, they don't have to come back and do it. We used to tender a line painting as part of the projects, but usually the unit pricing for line painting as part of the paving tenders would range anywhere from $1.50 to $2.50 per meter. So including that in our operational budget and scheduling a little bit, it would save us upwards of $20,000 to $25,000 on those contracts.
On line painting?
That's correct.
Alone?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, because I think in the email he sent me, it was like 52 cents is what we get charged for painting. If we can have the new pavement painted as well, we're saving $1,000 to $2,000 per kilometer on line painting alone.
Yeah, minimum. Remember, the 3 lines painted on every kilometer, right?
Oh, okay. So triple
you gotta
that.
triple that. So it adds
Triple
up
that.
pretty quick.
Okay.
So, and it's nice it's already included in the operational budget. So there's no extra money going out for that type of service.
So kudos to staff that made that change in procedures to save us, like you say, 25. And those are the savings that you don't really think about until you really investigate them. That, well, if we can save $25,000 on line painting, that's $25,000 that we can spend somewhere else, or we don't have to tax. So Thanks for the answers.
Exactly. Yep.
I'll be back in 3 months with a
Thank you.
bunch more.
Sorry, any other questions? Do I have a mover?
Moved by Councillor Mitchell, seconded by Councillor Finch, the report 2025-071 from the Director of Public Services be received and filed for information purposes only.
Is there any discussion? Deputy Mayor.
It wasn't a question, so I saved it for now. Just a quick comment about the sidewalk inspections. It was great to see in this report. I really enjoyed having the 3-month build-up because the report, I found the content of it far more interesting than what we're used to when we get them monthly. So I've enjoyed this new format, and the line about public services and building department working together on checklists. I think the real improvement to the service delivery for residents with sidewalks are coming because some of those silos of departmental assessment and operation are coming down, and seeing sort of those cross-departmental analysis of any, for this item, it's for sidewalks, is only improving how we're able to serve residents. And one thing that I noticed was that in that spring inspection, those marks were made on the sidewalk. I started receiving calls from residents who had markings in front of their home, who were then inquiring around timeline because they may have had planned projects coming up. And I think they had very positive interactions when I connected them with staff around looking at when there was going to be future damage, or could there be damage, or when were replacements happening, and essentially seeking to have risk of damaging newly freshly replaced sidewalks not happen. So I think we're always moving to improve, and we're not going to get to the finish line right in our first step. But even just seeing that opportunity for residents to engage in helping ensure that when we're making our investments into those sidewalks, that we're doing it in a way that we're not inadvertently then creating more damage and more cost to residents and to the tax base. So very happy to see this, and happy to receive and file this report.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And next up, we don't have anything from recreation facilities at this meeting, so 9.1 Emergency Services Report 2025-085 from the Fire Chief, Manager of Emergency Services. Chief, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. The Q2 report follows up where the Q1 report left off, and I'm excited to get a full year of reports under us, because that will be the annual completed at this stage at least, and I'll have time to delve into other topics.
Questions from council on the report? Councillor Mitchell. I knew that was going to happen. I knew with absolute
I hadn't
certainty.
asked a question, we would have had to call a recess and check my pulse, right? Well, my enthusiasm for data is well known, and my enthusiasm for fire department data is well known, but I'm limiting myself to one question on each of your two reports. The first report is on call types, the Q2, comparing them over the last 6 years. So is it fair to say that fire and MVC calls have a higher impact on the fire department budget than other type of calls because of the amount of human and equipment resources and the length of on-scene and recovery times? And I'm interested in how this relates to how much it costs us to run the fire department.
That is a very astute observation. Fires do cost us a lot because they take a long time to complete, and motor vehicle collisions, entrapment, that also takes a very long time to complete. Motor vehicle collisions and motor vehicle incidents that are not collisions take up a lot of our time because there's just so many of them. And then the equipment required for these two activities take up a significant portion of our capital budget and our operating budget. That is correct.
Any other questions on the report? I have a mover.
Moved by Councillor Mitchell, seconded by Councillor Finch, that report 2025-085 from the Fire Chief, Manager of Emergency Services be received and filed for information purposes only.
Is there any discussion? Similar to Councilor Mitchell, I love some good data, and what I mostly love about this, I don't have any questions on it right now. It is what it is. It's information. Is the potential for this council and future councils to use this data as part of not only asset management planning but also service level planning, looking forward to see are there trends here, are there changes that we can attempt to anticipate. Which in the past, when it comes to fire service, has largely been kind of subjective things. But now we have the potential, anyway, to be able to look at data that tells us the truth of the matter. That's a huge tool for us. Is there any other discussion before I call the question? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And Chief, report 2025-084.
This report was a lot of fun to write, and I'm excited to hear any questions you might have.
Questions from council on the report? Council.
As promised, I have one. The data presented is department-wide. Historically, shoot and response times have varied from station to station due to the different protocols in place reflecting the urban and rural nature of the staffing and call locations. An top example for me is that Thamesford keeps their bunker gear in the hall, and when the pager goes off, everybody goes to the hall and gears up there. And in past, Uniondale, because their firefighters are spread out so much further away from the hall, they keep their bunker gear on the trucks, and enough members go to the hall to get the trucks going. Once the truck's gone, then the firefighters would go directly to the call. Because of the significant distances involved of going to the hall and then turning around and going to the... So is it possible to analyze this data on a station-by-station basis to maybe tweak some of those protocols to make them more efficient in the future?
Yes. The plan is to look into station-by-station responses and try to figure out both qualitatively and quantitatively what the inputs are that are creating those response times so that we can tweak those in the future. That might be something that could possibly come up in a master fire plan.
Any other questions on the report? Do I have a mover? Councillor Mitchell.
Moved by Councillor Mitchell, seconded by Councillor Finch. The report 2025-084 from the Fire Chief, Manager of Emergency Services be received and filed for information purposes only.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And again, Chief Doyle, report 2025-086.
I would like to request some money be set aside in the next budget for a fire master plan.
Questions from council? Councillor Mitchell.
I'll defer to Councillor Stewart.
Councillor Stewart.
I'll go first. No, just, the report's really clear. Thanks for outlining the need. I wonder if you can kind of speak to it. So we commonly refer at budget time to the roads needs study that was done, and that outlines sort of a long-term plan for what to do with the roads and what to prioritize and how to monitor that year over year. This is an initial investment for something that's going to give us a long-term plan. How long-term is that plan, and how often would we need to redo that, or what efforts from outside consultants would we require over time in addition to this upfront?
That's a very good question. The initial plan is for it to span 10 years. Every council, every year, would have the opportunity to dive in and reopen it as needs arise. And recommendations would come from the fire department were that the case. Council could also do that unilaterally. If that were to happen, it would be the same decision again, whether we do an internal review have an external review or do some sort of mixed review.
And second question is relating to at least the recommended motion here, and I don't have the one on the floor that, or could be on the floor, but there's a few options in the report. You seem to point to the one where it's a collaborative process between staff and the consultants, so that we're getting some independent thought on this, but also we're leaning on the expertise of our staff. Is that, well, I guess we can wait until there's a motion on the floor, but that is your recommendation. Is that the way we proceed?
And that is correct.
Councilor Mitchell?
So my question is, and my concern is about if an outside, I support bringing in outside expertise. My concern is that this expertise may be focused on full-time departments and that the report would be slanted it that way. So are there consultants available familiar with the needs and limitations of a rural paid-on-call fire department?
Southwest Oxford has just closed an RFP, which leads me to believe that there are. Having it be a collaborative effort means that even were a consultant to look at perhaps what a larger fire department might look like and make those recommendations to us, we would be able to have our comments in the mix as well. This gives us the ability to allow the residents of Zorra to see what they've paid for, what that recommendation is, and then also see our response to the recommendation.
Any other questions? Do I have a mover? Councilor Mitchell.
Moved by Councilor Mitchell, seconded by Councilor Finch, that Council approves $60,000 for a fire master plan to be included in the 2026 budget and to be funded 75% from the development charges and 25% from the tax levy.
Is there any discussion? Councilor Mitchell.
So yeah, I support option number 3 that's Councilor Finch alluded, or Councilor Stewart alluded to with the collaborative effort. We've seen the benefits of developing master plans in other departments. The recreation one, roads needs one, which is a form of master plan, and our asset management plan. They're all master plans that have been beneficial to us. I think having outside perspective and expertise is invaluable, but I think it's also very important that this be collaborative, that there's input not only from the chief, but from the station chiefs and from the firefighters. Being a firefighter is a different type of employment in the township. It's not a full-time job. It's what people do in addition to their full-time jobs. And the motivation, there's a lot of motivations to being a firefighter. It's fun being part of a team. It's the adrenaline rush you get when the pager goes off, although that wears off after time, Kevin. And money's at the bottom of the list. At the top of the list is contributing to your community and helping to protect your community. And so because that's the motivation, there's a lot of ownership of the fire service by the firefighters. And so if we're going to develop a master plan, it has to be grassroots. Take the expertise that we can hire and take the expertise that we have at all levels and combine that to come up with the best thing. I think it's $60,000 that is in line with what other master plans have been. I like the idea of an RFP where we can really design what we want from whoever we hire to do this. So I'm in support of this initiative.
Any other discussion? Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, I'm in full support of this. Happy with the identified best practices and process. I think What has me most excited about this is in both this term and previous term, there have been various points with very specific parcels of property or proposals ahead of us that we've looked to our fire chief for comment on the needs of the department really for a long-term perspective, essentially asking for comment in the moment on a specific issue that would be, that would need the backing of something like this, like a 10-year fire master plan in order to properly inform. So I think this sets us up best for the fire service heading into the future in Zorra, but also that when we're looking at other types of things, you know, in the various things we do here in Zorra, that resource is already developed and in place, and that when we're looking for that supportive information around the needs of the fire service into the future, that it's already there. So excited to see this and the impact it'll have.
Any other discussion? Very supportive of this for all the reasons that Councillor Mitchell said about the other master plans that we have, starting of course with our strategic plan, but I think this is the right way for municipal government in 2025 to manage its businesses through strategic plans and master plans and giving clear, you know, when we get it, giving clear direction to staff broadly about the service level that we want to deliver, how we want to fund that service level, and then council getting out of the way and expecting staff to deliver on that master plan and strategic plan, and keeping council out of the weeds of micromanaging things that we're not experts in. And I think this is the right way to do business. And again, this feeds into how we end up with audited financial statements that show that we're in a good position and we're delivering service. And we've already identified today that we've increased service levels as well. And it's because of doing things like this. So very supportive of this in particular for this fire master plan, but in general, as Councillor Mitchell said, for whether it's recreation or roads needs or fire, whatever the case may be, this is the right way to do that. So very supportive of this. Any other discussion before I call the question? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And Building, Drainage, and Bylaw Services, CBO Hughes, Report 2025-082. Is there anything you want to highlight?
Nothing at this time.
Questions for Mike? Councillor Mitchell?
Mike, in the report, you noted that this was the first permit issued for a R1 ARU, and it seems like every council meeting we have applications, minor variances for rural ARUs, 2 more today. How many rural and ARUs permits have been issued, and are there some still in the system where approval's been made but permits haven't been issued?
Yeah, so this note was really for the building department, was kind of like our first ARU that's in a detached structure. We've had some basement units come in before, but this is our really like a little ARU in a backyard, right? And that was kind of what that note was made to say. On ag properties, we've had 6 ARUs, and we had 2 more pending in the queue. But again, today you can see 2 more coming.
Okay.
So we'll say 4 at that point.
It's been interesting since we adopted the ARU policies to see that people out in the country have really jumped on this.
Yeah,
and maybe a little more hesitation.
Yeah, and you will see those ones come to council as they did today on the rural agricultural properties as they need the planning. So yeah.
Okay, so we're seeing them because of the planning process involves us more than the.
You won't necessarily see ones like that on an R1 property because they're entitled to do that without the planning.
So we are getting ARUs in town.
Yeah.
Just that they're not as visible.
You're not seeing them come through. Yeah.
That's interesting. They were noted that there were 3 orders to comply. Were they all on the same property?
They were
and
not.
And how were you made aware of these violations?
They were not all on the same property. 3 different violations. A lot of times when we find a building without a permit, I'll say 90% of the time it's a drive-by. We see something going on the property. I believe that was the case on these as well. 5% is probably complaint, and 5% is the fact that every locate comes across my desk. So I know if you're putting a pool in, if you're building a fence, or you're grinding a stump on your property. So
okay,
yeah.
And what's the penalty for somebody that build something without a permit? What are the options?
You can be fined under the POA, Provincial Offences Act, or a lot of times, mostly what we will do is a double the permit fee.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how much would the fines be? Would they be?
It can be up to $5,000
Okay.
if you go the one route, but typically doubling the permit fee will be, it could be $500, could be $1,000, depends on the size of the project,
Right.
square footage, yeah.
Depends how egregious the,
We try not to beat up people too hard. If they're good to work with us,
yeah,
then we'll work with them.
okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
I can tell you from personal experience, they're very good to work with when you don't have a permit for a thing that you should have had a permit for. It was minor, but
We can discuss the details later, Mr.
I wasn't even on council, I don't think. I wasn't even on council at the time.
Okay.
But anyway, all ended fine. Questions for Mike on the report? Not seeing any. Do I have a mover?
Moved by Councillor Mitchell, seconded by Councillor Finch, that report 2025-082 from the Chief Building Official, Drainage Superintendent, and Building Services Coordinator be received and filed for information purposes only.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And Mike, again, report 2025-080 from the Drainage Superintendent regarding Pearson-Sims drain petition.
Yes, so this is again a petition to close in a portion of a municipal drain. It's tiled to a portion and then it becomes open, so really the purpose of this is to close it in and square up a field for workability. Usually when we get with these, we're worried that the Conservation Authority possibly won't allow it, so we've already contacted the Conservation Authority on this one and asked, hey, do we even have a fighting chance? And they have said they think that this will be okay, so I don't think we're wasting our time with this.
Any questions? Do I have a mover? Deputy Mayor.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Stewart, that council receive and adopt the drainage petition signed by Paul Henderson, property owner of East Part Lot 18, Concession 8, known as 136073 13th line, under Section 78 of the Drainage Act, RSO 1990, for improvement to an existing drain works.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And report 2025-081 from the bylaw enforcement officer regarding bylaw enforcement Q2 update. I'm assuming that's going to be you, Director. Anything you want to highlight there?
Not at this time. Thanks.
Questions from council? Do I have a mover? Deputy Mayor.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Stewart, that report 2025-081 from the bylaw enforcement officer be received and filed for information purposes only.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And nothing from financial services this month. 9.4 legislative services report 2025-089 from the strategic initiatives coordinator regarding strategic plan process coordinator. So Raj, is there anything you would like to highlight for council before I ask them if they have questions for you?
Just want to thank staff as always for giving me updates to the strategic initiatives when I come knocking at the door, and happy to answer any questions that council has about the report.
Questions from council on the report? Not seeing any. Do I have a mover? Deputy Mayor.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Stewart, that report 2025-089 from the strategic initiatives coordinator be received and filed for information purposes only.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And Coordinator Suckaraj again, report 2025-088 on proposed waste management policy. Is there anything you want to highlight there?
Just that, again, going back to the strategic initiatives, this was one of them that council requested we do some research into, take a look at our current internal waste management policies, so how we're handling our garbage recycling, organics, hazardous materials, all that stuff within our facilities and with our operations. So this is the culmination of that research, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Questions from council? Councilor Mitchell.
Yeah, there's a couple things that came up from the policy itself, and just was curious about. And what's the research behind item 1II in the reduced section of the policy, which is to phase out garbage receptacles in offices and meeting rooms?
Thank you for the question. Great question. Removing individual garbage bins in offices coincides with the research on always having a garbage and recycling bin present together to allow people to sort their waste more effectively. When people just have a small bin under their desk, they're more likely to just toss everything into the one bin, whereas centralized bins with garbage and recycling options available encourages more mindful disposal, especially when the onus is actually on staff to get up and go to those bins, as we have in this building. And those bins will also be fitted with proper signage and waste separation posters, so it kind of gives you a guideline of what to do. The research on this was gathered from several sources pertaining to easy methods of improving internal waste management in specifically an office setting. Staff also met with Oxford County's waste management supervisor, as well as their project lead for zero waste initiatives, who provided information on what measures they took at their own facilities. The main measure for internal changes was removal or downsizing of the individual bins in offices and meeting rooms, and the addition of more centralized waste collection spots. The waste management staff would only collect from the actual centralized spots, again, putting more responsibility in the hands of staff within the offices to properly sort the waste that they produce.
And when I first read it, I thought that's kind of strange, but it makes sense that when something's more physically challenging to do, the more thought you put into it, the more likely you are to sort things out the way, rather than, as you said, put it all in one little bucket. Second question, does the section on electronics apply only to township staff and township equipment, or is it available to Zorra Township residents?
So the section on electronics only applies to township staff for electronics generated in the regular operation of township duties. The policy itself overall is for internal waste management for the municipal facilities, as specified in the direction of Strategic Initiative number 3, and it's not for public waste collection. Those services for us and for residents are still managed by Oxford County, and this policy is just to ensure that staff know how we handle different types of waste to improve our own efforts and impact.
My last question is, the information regarding garbage disposal included in rental agreements for township halls and other facilities?
Another great question. I did reach out to our facilities and rec staff to confirm that one. The information is not included in the actual rental agreement at this time. However, recreation staff do send email reminders to the renters the week of their rental about housekeeping items, including the waste disposal info, and this information can be added to the agreement moving forward as well.
Okay. Thanks, Jacob.
Any other questions? Do I have a mover? Deputy Mayor.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Stewart, that Council review and adopt, review, receive, receive. Sorry. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Stewart, that Council receive and adopt the waste management policy for township facilities.
Is there any discussion? Councillor Mitchell.
Yeah, another very well-written policy, Jacob, and I like that it states the goal of waste reduction without setting arbitrary targets. It includes a list of actions to achieve the goals, and it's noted several places, including at the end, that this will be reviewed 2 years, but it's also noted that it's a living document, and as situations change, it will be updated, and so I'm quite happy to support this policy.
Deputy Mayor.
I watched you. You were gone.
Was that because I was talking or because? Okay.
I'll try to keep it brief. This policy did everything I was hoping it could do and far more. The discussions we had when developing our strategic plan for this term, this was a great topic that came up, and I think there was a couple areas that I had hoped we could improve on, and this is far more wide-reaching. And I just really quickly, in our strategic plan, our vision statement is that we're a vibrant, prosperous, engaged, and environmentally conscientious community that evokes pride in residents for its accomplishments and continuing resilience as it forges the future. And I think, we take a lot of pride in our strategic plan, not just being, something that we put a stamp on and throw in a cupboard for 4 years, but we actually work with. And when we say that we're environmentally conscientious, how do we embody that as a council? And I think policies like this are often sort of those necessary tools so that we can take our intentions that we set in consultation with our community members, that we set in our plans, and actually realize them in the details of how we operate day in and day out. So incredible report and policy framework, and as Councillor Mitchell said, it's a living document, so I fully expect it not to be perfect out of the gate, although in reading this today I don't see any areas of concern, and excited to have this.
Any other discussion? Another great example of how, in my opinion, a municipal government should work: identifying a goal in a strategic plan, asking staff to bring a policy, staff bring a comprehensive policy that has a plan to be reviewed. That puts it fully in the hands of staff to come back with regular reviews, and it gives a place for future councils to say, if we want to change something, how do we change it? Oh, we have a policy, this is where we do that, as opposed to councils sort of ad hoc saying do this or don't do that or whatever. I want to highlight there was one particular part that I think is sort of an example of the rest of the policy, how good it is, the waste audit part. Because what I think when it talks about this in the report, it's talking about it as solid waste, the language of the waste industry as solid waste, a piece of waste, thing that we don't want anymore, we're going to throw it away. But the reality in the context of a municipal government doing a waste audit is anything that's in a garbage bin or a recycling bin is a thing that we taxed people for and bought and then threw away, right? So, the less stuff that we do of that, not only is it better for the environment and the landfill, but it's also less things that we're taxing people for to buy and then throw away. So there's a lot of potential in that waste audit thing, maybe not in August or September of 2025, but going forward as this policy actually gets implemented, there's a ton of potential there to say, do we really need to be buying whatever this thing came in this packaging and things like that, which again is stuff that we spend money on and then throw away. So whether you look at that from an environmental perspective or a financial perspective, that waste audit, either way, is a good thing for us to be doing. And I'm quite confident that if council had micromanaged this issue, we probably would not have come up with something as comprehensive as an actual waste audit. But when we hand it off to staff as, bring me a policy that reduces our waste, we get gems like that. That don't depend on the council of the day to make them happen. So excellent report, very supportive of this. Anybody else before I call the question?
I actually just wanted to briefly say that, the waste audit is probably number one on the list of ways to reduce your contribution to landfills from across all the research. And part of the strategic initiative mentioned consultation with organizations such as Transition to Less Waste, which we did reach out to, thankfully, and they actually asked, have you put money aside for a waste audit? That was the first thing they asked me. And I said, not yet, but that's actually a great idea to bring to council. So that also kind of fulfills the secondary part of the initiative there, reaching out to other organizations and getting their input. So that's my last thing.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. And report 2025-087 from the Customer Service Administrative Support Summer Student Bean regarding Summer employment. Is there anything you want to highlight in there before I ask you for a question? They ask you.
I'll highlight two things. I think the first one is just showing how many people have used this new office. We have a lot of foot traffic that comes in quite regularly, as well as a lot of phone traffic. The numbers I had roughly this summer was about 960 people. That was using the average of about a dozen people a day. We try and keep track up front how many people come in and what reasons they come in. So that list broken down of the main inquiries that happen are based on the data we've collected up front. And then the second thing I'd like to point out have been the administrative projects. A few of those have been carryover from moving to the new office, so updating and digitizing documents, as well as following up with old permits that had been stored in the old office. So there have been quite a few projects that I've been able to complete that were carryover from moving. So it's been nice to wrap up some of those this summer. Those are sort of the two main highlights, and happy to take questions.
Questions from council? Do I have a mover?
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Stewart, that report 2025-087 from the Customer Service Administrative Support Summer Student be received and filed for information purposes only.
Is there any discussion? Councilor.
Nathan, I didn't have any questions because of the length and the detail in your report, which I love long, detailed reports. And you not only provided some insight into what you've done over the summer, but you also provided me some insight into what our front support staff do. And I've always I know that they're back there and they answer questions, but I didn't really know much about it other than that. But you also provided data, and we've talked this morning how this council loves data of what you've done, how many people you've interacted with, and that helps us decide whether we want to include this position in the budget for next year. So we've talked about some of your ambitions and where you want to go, and you're at a stage in life where the options to you are wide open. I have a son who's about 15 years further down one road that you're considering. Whether you follow that road or take a totally different path, I'm sure you're going to be very successful, and all the best. I think it would be nice to have you back next year, but I think there's going to be some opportunities, other places for you to go. So thank you.
Well, I really appreciate the kind words, and yeah, I've had a great summer here. Couldn't have asked for a better time. Happy to be back home in Zorra Township. And the other thing I guess I'd mention is just how much I've learned. It has been an incredible learning opportunity on my part, learning how our property tax system works, building permits, the clerk's services, just everything that a municipality encompasses has been really rewarding. So thank you for the opportunity.
Any other discussion? Deputy Mayor.
So the position and the idea to have someone come in and provide these supports, I think, was a really great initiative by our staff. Our goal is always that we are able to provide consistent service and maintain those service levels for residents. And it's evident in your report that in providing that administrative support to various departments, not only was it a great learning experience and exposure for you to see those different things, but that also allowed for the summertime where we're seeing, higher levels of holidays from staff, that the service level that residents is experiencing is not being impacted by having some of those holidays. So, this was another example of a great thing put in place by our senior administration here that has been such a great thing for council and for residents. I have thoroughly enjoyed not only the direct interactions I've had with you, but being in the office and seeing firsthand those ways that you've supported our residents when they've come in here with their inquiries. And I know there's a lot of pressure in all the roles we have in life to have all the answers. And it's great to see that when you don't have the answer, that you were committed to connecting them with the resources that they could get that support. And it was evident in the ways that they left our building feeling at ease and that they'd received what they wanted. I often, when I speak of you, I say, you know, Zorra's own Nathan Bean. And so I look forward to continuing following what you do in your career wherever it takes you, and am very proud to say Zorra's own. You know, the incredible talent that you exude representing who we are as a community. You represent us very well.
And again, I'd like to say thank you for the very kind words. I'll be turning red over here. And the one thing that you mentioned, which I completely agree with, is that when I didn't have the info, I did try my best to find the correct person, because I find that a lot of people, when dealing with any level of government, there can sometimes be confusion about who does what and why. And I think no one likes to play phone tag, especially when they're having a difficult situation or looking for answers. So I think it is a really valuable service to be able to either provide direct answers or quickly and accurately transfer someone to the proper authority, because I think that makes a big difference in people's interactions and understanding of government.
Anyone else? Nathan, we've talked many times. We're going to talk more. We'll talk in Ottawa over the next week. I think you've done a fantastic job. I think you know that. I think that you've heard it from other members of council. I really hope that council does continue this position next year, whether it's you or not. You've set a high bar for what the job does, but you've also set a great example for council and staff of the potential in the role, that it can be a way to develop a local student, but also genuine value for residents in the role. So thank you for both perspectives there. I think with respect to, you know, what you want to do in the future, you know, the future is hopefully long for you, but also like wide open. When I talk to groups of students, I often tell them, like, I'm now 55 years old and I'm on my third career and I don't know what I want to do when I grow up. It's different now than it was in the past. There's a lot more options available. But I would highlight, though, that I try to never refer to other levels of government as senior levels of government, because they're just different levels of government. And I know that we have staff that work here at Zorra, we have staff that work at Oxford County, that absolutely had opportunities to go other, you know, bigger and better places, and have chosen not to go those places because municipal politicians are very fond of saying this is the level of government that's closest to people and has the right, and it's a cliche, but it's a cliche because it is in a lot of ways really true. And I've had this discussion with MPPs and ministers, that you can make decisions in your local council that affect people like the next day. You can also make decisions that affect the next decade or 2 decades, and you can lobby those higher levels of government to make big changes. But also, when you're in a small level of government, you have an opportunity to touch a lot of different services, whereas the higher you go, you know, in other levels of government, your window of things you get to do narrows considerably. All that is to say, you know, maybe you want to stay at Zorra Township. But wherever you go, as the Deputy Mayor said, we will be very proud and keenly follow your progress. And thank you for being here for the summer. When's your last day?
My last day is actually, I only have 5 more business days here. It'll be the tax due date, but I have AMO in between and a few days off, so not much more.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Any other discussion before I call the question? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried.
Actually, there was one other thing I was going to mention, if it's okay.
Go for it.
After writing this report, I was on the township website looking at the council page before today's council meeting, and I came across council highlights from 2014 to 2018. And going through that document, I noticed on the last page there was a highlight about Local Government Week and how council had connected with elementary schools. And I was very surprised to see a young me in that picture from grade 4 or 5. And so we've had a few discussions on my career here, and I just wanted to say a lot of my municipal interests started from that Local Government Week and that council interest. So just wanted to thank you guys for that.
Yeah, thank you for highlighting that too, because it's strange, because in particular in the last year, I think a lot of those students that we talked to back then have reached an age now. I was in like the Home Hardware in Ingersoll a few months ago, and I was ordering a part for something. I don't even remember what it was. And the guy said, "What's your name?" I said, "Ryan." He goes, you the mayor? And I said, "Yeah, why?" And he's like, "Oh, because I was in grade 5, whatever year, you know." And I can't remember. It happened to me like 2 or 3 other times. And I know, I mean, frankly, somebody choosing a career in political science was like beyond what I ever dreamt of when we started going to the schools. I mean, I love it, but the main thing that I personally hoped for when we did that was exactly what happened, that somebody would just see the mayor and just go like, hey, are you the mayor? As opposed to being like intimidated by somebody with a title or whatever, you know? So yeah, it's really good to look back on those things and see that it has actually made a difference, right? For some people at least. So thank you for highlighting that. Thank you. So I think correspondence requiring direction. Do I have a mover? Deputy Mayor.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Stewart, that item 10A be received and filed for information purposes only.
Is there any discussion? Councillor Mitchell.
So this letter that's in the agenda from Ingersoll tells us very little. It doesn't say what section of Bill 5 they want to fight. Bill 5 is a huge bill. There's lots of things to be concerned about in there. There's a few things to be happy about in there, depending upon your perspective. It doesn't say what the Campbell Strategies Proposal is. And it doesn't say what the proposal will cost short-term or long-term. And it doesn't say what percentage of the cost they want Zorra to pay. And it doesn't say why municipalities are being threatened by whatever the threat is. So I tried to get some more information. I went on the Ingersoll Council website. I read the letter from Campbell Strategies that was on the agenda. I watched the debate, and what I learned to inform our consideration here is that the cost they're looking at to hire Campbell Strategies is $16,000 a month for 2 months. There was no estimate of cost beyond the 2 months. The proposal was that Campbell's would gather intelligence, share info with 150 municipalities, prepare short-term and long-term strategies. And there also was noted by the mayor and CAO that there have been discussions take place among mayors and CAOs of Ingersoll, Swax, and Zorra. So my question to the mayor and CAO, what can you tell us about what was those discussions entailed?
So there have been discussions between the three mayors and the warden about the fact that it is a known thing because lobbyists have to register to lobby the provincial government, and the Industry Association for Landfills did file to register that they were going to be a lobbyist. I can't remember exactly the language, but it was either about repealing or modifying the legislation that gives a municipality the right to say yes or no to a private landfill. Not that surprising, really. We know they didn't like it when it was an idea. We know they didn't like it when it became legislation, and I don't know why they would have ever changed their mind to like it. It's an impediment to them doing their business. So not that surprising, really. So the discussions amongst the mayors and the CAOs were largely around, you know, what is this? All four of the respective municipalities have passed resolutions saying that they would not provide the resolution of support for the private landfill that in particular. So the discussion was, you know, how real a situation is this? How likely is this to actually happen? And therefore, how much resources do we allocate? There were most of the discussions were around what do we know, what do we not know, how do we find out more so that we're better informed before we decide to do anything. At that point, Ingersoll Council decided to go ahead with this discussion at their council and make this decision. I will also say that at I think every mayor and CAO meetings we had, Campbell Strategies was there and participated as well. So that's really about all the discussion, that I can say. I'm happy to take any other questions on it. I don't know if you wanted to add anything else.
The motion is to just receive and file? Okay.
It says that item 10A be received and filed for information purposes only.
Okay, I'm happy to support that. Based on the information that's been sent to us, I think it would be, it's not enough information to commit anything financially to this issue because of the lack of information that I outlined in my comments. If they want to come back with more information, and that would make our participation something that we should consider, but not at this time. So I'll support the motion to just receive and file and not do anything else.
Any other discussion? Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, I share some, similar approach at this point, I think. There's the topic of the concern around the legislation and potential with landfill, and then there's the correspondence in front of us today. In terms of the correspondence, it references agree to a cost-sharing proposal. We haven't received a cost-sharing proposal. We're receiving a resolution. I also went back and watched the council meeting and discussion, and a little bit difficult to follow, but I believe also part of what this Campbell Strategies would be funding is preparations for them for delegation materials for AMO, which is why their timeline was as tight as it is. And so, if this ask is for us to partake in funding their delegation materials being prepared for the town of Ingersoll, I don't see that as being something for us to involve ourselves in. Having said that, maybe as we move forward, if there can be a bit more information involved. And then just one other, a brief comment. I think, all municipalities involved in circulating this correspondence, sharing concern on this topic and issue, that, in the past when this happened, there was the Joint Municipal Coordinating Committee was formed so that what that approach was and that what that work could be was developed in a collaborative way that I think moved through to a place where what initiatives were going to be endorsed and funded happened with a little bit more buy-in. And so while I'm not provided with enough information in front of me today to even know what's being asked of us as a council, let alone information to allocate Zorra resources towards whatever the proposal is from Campbell Strategies. I do think that there's other ways that we can carry on this conversation to make sure that we are advocating for the issues that are absolutely important to all of our communities.
Councilor Mitchell.
Another thing that was on, you said it was, the council meeting was a little hard to follow, and I agree with you there. It was unclear to me whether they were concerned about Walker specifically and the dump or landfill specifically, or they were concerned about the legislation being changed to take away our right to make a decision on it. And if that's the case, if it's a province-wide legislation change, I think that's an AMO issue that is more suited for a province-wide organization to take on rather than individual municipalities.
Councilor Stewart.
Just like Councilor Mitchell said, and I think Deputy Mayor referenced the same thing, is that to really get a better understanding of this, you have to listen to the Ingersoll discussion on this and then dig into some of the additional information through their agenda package. And the official correspondence we have is all in relation to Bill 5, and I'm not a policy writer in that sense of the word, but from what I can read, they're only citing potential impacts from this Bill 5, not even direct impacts. And as far as I can tell, there aren't impacts, but I mean, that's not really for me to assert. But the wording from Campbell Strategies goes on to talk about other things that are recent developments and concerns, and understanding there's been a good history of fighting a landfill here locally. Statements such as concerns regarding landfill capacities, well, of course, that's going to be a discussion that happens. Measures recently taken by the City of Toronto, I think through the discussion during the meeting, that was in relation to an RFI, so basically a request for interest of other municipalities to take Toronto's garbage. Well, of course, they're going to be looking for a solution. So these things were adding to the concern and around the table, I think, at their council meeting at least. And I think these are all valid things that the City of Toronto and the province is going to talk about. And I don't think they lead to creating as large of an issue as it became during that discussion. So, yeah, unless there was more clarity here, I'm not in support of doing anything to partner at this time.
Any other discussion? Yeah, I tend not to watch other council meetings that much anymore, partially because I don't have as much time to as I used to, but partially because also, as the clerk would remind us, council speak through resolution and bylaw, you know, and we all talk and we ask questions, and then we pass a resolution, and that's it, right? So sometimes residents say to me, but this councillor said that. I said, it doesn't matter. Pass the resolution. The resolution says what the resolution says, no matter what we all said. It was up to us or them to put in a resolution what you want the resolution to say. And if it isn't in there, then I have to assume that your council didn't mean for it to be in there, or if it is in there, I assume that you did. So I think, to me, I look at this resolution, and it says what it says. That's what their council voted on. That's what it is. I personally think this is an issue that we need to keep an eye on, because we have a resolution saying that we would not provide that resolution of support for the private landfill. But I largely agree that I don't see this as an immediate or an imminent threat. I think there's a lot of things that you could be concerned about in Bill 5, quite rightly. Could it be used in this case? Sure. That's one of the concerns of Bill 5, is that it could be used in lots of cases. It's very non-specific about how it could be used. Do we have any reason to believe that it is going to be used in this case? No, we don't. As I said at the beginning in response to Councillor Mitchell's question, you know, totally unsurprising that the industry wants this legislation changed. Not new at all. So I think, is it something that we need to monitor? Yeah. Is it something that we need to allocate financial resources to at this point in time? I don't think so. I think we have the ability to talk with MPPs and ministers, and even in the industry if we want to, and have those kinds of conversations. And then by that we might know at a certain point if we want to allocate more resources than that. But I don't think it rises to it at this point. But of course, Ingersoll's our neighbor, and if they want to, as their resolution says, you know, have their staff talk to our staff more about it, then we'll have those conversations and we'll see where it goes. Anybody else? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And information items, we have A, B, and C. I don't know if anybody wants to do anything different with any of those, but I'll look for a mover.
I do have a question of my county councillor about item B.
Go for it.
Okay, so, what's that? It's a test. And item B is about the four-way stop that's going to be put in on the Embryo Road intersection with Road 96. So the question is, will there be improvements to the approaches to the intersection on the Embryo Road to account for the damage done by heavy trucks stopping and starting when the stop signs are put up? And I'm asking this question because we saw in Kintora, when that was made four-way stop, within months, the roads on either side were cut because of the stress of heavy trucks when they stop and when they start up. And I've seen this, Kintora was probably the worst, but I've seen this in other areas. So is that part of the installation, or are they just putting up signs for now?
Just signs for now. So
Okay.
it'll be the stops, obviously, for the additional stop sign.
Yeah.
And then the stop sign ahead signs to flag too.
Yeah.
Sorry. Just signs. It'll be the stop signs for the additional crossing, and then stop sign ahead signs to signal to people that there's a change in the intersection. There's no planned change right now in the physical infrastructure of the road. When I checked with the Director of Public Works for the county, she said that what was observed in Kintora, which she fully agreed happened, and was a genuine issue, has not generally been observed throughout the county at similar situations. Okay. So their plan is to monitor it, and she assured me that if that did happen, that they would act on it then. But right now the plan is they do not anticipate that it will happen, and so they're not going to invest in infrastructure that frankly might not be needed.
That's reasonable. Don't spend money for something that might happen.
I loved the answer of, we're not going to spend money on it, but we're going to monitor it. Great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, thanks for clarifying that.
No problem.
And you passed the test.
Yeah, thank you. Do we have a mover then, Deputy Mayor?
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Stewart, that items 12A through C be received and filed for information purposes only.
Is there any discussion? I would just draw a circle back from the Customer Service Administrative Support Summer Student position to that improvement to Oxford OR 28 and OR 6, because Nathan made that presentation, delegation to County Council I don't know when, January or February, I don't know what it was. And I think he did a great job at that, and now it's going to be implemented this quarter, I guess, so that means next month probably. So, did I call the question on this? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And no unfinished business, no notice of motion. I have bylaws, community interest, closed and confirmatory. Okay, so bylaws. Do I have a mover? Deputy Mayor? No. Councillor Stewart.
Moved by Stewart, second by Gregg, that bylaws 32-25 and 33-25 be taken as read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. And further, that the mayor and clerk are hereby authorized to sign the same and affix the corporate seal thereto.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Calendar. Councillor Finch. No? AMO, three of us, myself, Councillor Finch, and CAO Larder are going to Association of Municipalities of Ontario Conference. You guys are starting out on Saturday. I'm starting out on Sunday. We do have, on behalf of Zorra Township, we have one delegation to the Minister of Education on the Tuesday, I think it is. I can't remember. Yeah, Tuesday afternoon. And hopefully we'll learn lots of other things to bring back to improve the township. I'm looking in my calendar. I'm not seeing anything. Anybody got anything? Deputy Mayor.
Tomorrow is the Beachville District Museum Annual Summer Barbecue fundraiser. It's from 5 to 7 p.m. at the museum. This year you're able to purchase tickets online, $25 for an adult, $10 for youth 6 to 11, and kids 5 and under are free. And I'm on the website right now, and it looks like tickets are likely still available, but this event often does sell out. So if you're interested, make sure you grab your tickets ASAP.
Anybody else have anything? Councillor Mitchell.
August 17th, the Canadian Food Grains Bank Pig Roast at Brown's Church, 5:15 p.m. And September 4th is the annual Uniondale Firefighters Chicken Barbecue. I don't have any more information so far, but hopefully the price didn't go up.
It's the same price.
It's the same price. That's good.
Anybody else? All right. Then do I have a motion to go into closed?
Moved by Stewart, second by Gregg, that council move into closed meeting session at 11:31 a.m. pursuant to section 239(2)K, a position, plan, procedure, criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiation carried on or to be carried on by or on behalf of the municipality or local board.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. We're back from close at 11:55, and what we have left is confirmatory bylaw and adjournment. Do I have a mover for the confirmatory bylaw? Councillor Stewart.
Moved by Stewart, second by Grigg, that bylaw 34-25, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council held August 14th, 2025, be read a first, second, and third time this August 14th, 2025. And further, that the mayor and clerk are hereby authorized to sign the same and affix the corporate seal thereto.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. And a motion to adjourn. Councillor Stewart.
Moved by Stewart, seconded by Grigg, that this session of council be now adjourned and herewith closed at 11:56 a.m. And the next meeting of Zorra Council will be called for September 17th, 2025 at 9:30 a.m. in the council chambers at the Zorra Municipal Center.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried, and we are adjourned.